Patrick Durkin here with the Durkin Group, and we wanted to share some noteworthy news with you that we felt was necessary. That's why you're hearing from us twice in 1 week. This is not the norm. We like to keep these short and sweet and maybe once a month here, but because there's some noteworthy news, we felt that it would be worth sharing with you. This is geared towards those who are investors, landlords, property owners of rental properties, or homeowners who have considered renting out their home instead of selling it. Let me first start off by saying that I am not a property manager, nor is any member of the Durkin Group. In the state of Nevada, you have to have a property manager's permit to perform duties of a property manager, collect rents, accounting, manage properties. We do not do that. Our brokerage, ERA Brokers Consolidated, does have a property manager. Should you need further guidance, we'd be happy to point you in the direction of our property manager to help with any questions that you have. We also want to say that by no means are we definitely feel for those who are renters right now, tenants who have lost their jobs. If you need resources as far as what the next steps are, we might be able to help you out and point you in the right direction as well. But we felt that this news is noteworthy for current property owners, landlords, and those who have considered renting out their home. So as you know, the CARES Act was the major bill that was already passed. It was hundreds of pages of a bill that allowed for what we know it as the economic stimulus checks, the small business loans from the SBA, the Paycheck Protection Program, so on and so forth. It also included provisions for rent moratoriums and if you're kind of some guidance for property owners as well. And so I'll briefly talk about that. Essentially, the CARES Act defined a covered dwelling as one that is backed by a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac mortgage. If you don't know if your mortgage is backed by a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac mortgage, I've included links in this post and email for you to check. If you currently have one and you have tenants in your property and the tenants have lost their jobs and they're not paying rent, you cannot evict them, you cannot issue notices of default, you cannot assess late fees, and you cannot assess penalties or charge them. Property managers will lose their business license if they do any of the above. If they so much as even reach out to the tenant to talk to them about default, give them a notice on their door, mail them something, they will be at risk for losing their business license. And this is under the CARES Act, that you cannot do any of these things if you have tenants not paying rent. Furthermore, eviction proceedings are not taking place right now, so you cannot evict them either. What does this mean for you if you're a property manager or if you're a landlord? Maybe you have a 12-month lease in place, and maybe you're on month 1 or month 6. You are locked in for the foreseeable future at risk for not receiving rent from your tenant, and you cannot get them out. Again, I definitely feel for the renters and the tenants that are in a pinch, and if you are in that box, we may be able to assist as far as some additional guidance from what we know. Again, we're not property managers. But furthermore, today the Senate is voting on the HEROES Act. It's not my job to be a politician, it's my job to be a real estate person. So one note on the HEROES Act, it has to go through the Senate today. I don't know if it's going to get passed or not, but it's an 1,800-page bill. Page 934 of that 1,800-page bill allows for an additional 12-month moratorium on non-payment of rent, and it has nothing to do with covered dwellings. It would apply to multifamily dwellings as well, so fourplexes, triplexes, apartment buildings. So what does this mean for you if you're a landlord? I'm going to run through some frequently asked questions just to sum this up here. Again, if you have tenants occupying your home right now and they're not paying rent, you cannot vacate them. You cannot issue notices of default, and you cannot assess late fees and penalties. If I can be totally candid here, Patrick, I'll get them out on my own. With all due respect, no, you won't. Non-payment of rent under the directive is not a way for you to get them out. In fact, the eviction proceedings are not even taking place. So if a tenant's lease is expiring soon and they lose their job and they can't move out, by state law, all leases automatically go into a month-to-month basis. So therefore, they can continue to occupy your rental property all the while not paying rent. Can I sell my home while a tenant is living there? Yes, you can. However, real estate personnel were considered essential by our governor here in Nevada when the stay-at-home order was issued. And one of the directives from the governor was no open houses and no showings on homes on the market at all that are tenant occupied. So you could sell your home, you can put it up on the market, but you cannot get it shown at all. That's very, very difficult to buy a piece of property without seeing it in person if you're a buyer. Can you imagine buying a home without ever seeing it? Furthermore, in Nevada, if you have a lease in place with a tenant and you put the home up for sale, the new owner has to honor the lease. The lease does not go away even if the property title gets transferred to a new owner. Let's say you have 8 months left on a lease and you sell the home. The new buyer has to honor the lease and let the tenant stay to fulfill their lease. So you are limiting your buyer pool to people who are okay with buying a home sight unseen and are okay with not occupying the property right away and letting a lease take place and risking the tenant staying there even after the lease expires. So very, very tough to sell a tenant-occupied home right now. If you've considered renting out your home, I would highly, highly advise you to talk to us about selling before you do that. Let me tell you a little bit of a difference. You've seen our market updates on what's going on with the sale market as opposed to the rental market. About 180 degrees difference. The sale market, you've read through our market updates, is still alive and well. There's 700 new listings a week average on the Las Vegas multiple listing service, 500-600 of which are going under contract and closing. Let's just be honest, we're facing some unemployment numbers here in Las Vegas, but there is still a large amount of buyers that are buying. We only have 2.8 months of worth of inventory of available housing. Therefore, it is still a seller's market. So this may be your short window of opportunity to get your property sold before you risk putting it back up on the rental market and renting it out. And furthermore, I always ask this question, what if we find a solid tenant with an 850 credit score and a great job history? There is nothing preventing that person from losing their job the day after they sign the lease, and now you're locked in for 12 months worth of a lease and you may not be getting paid. Under the CARES Act, which is already passed, the links for checking if you have a mortgage on your rental property, tenant non-payment of rent is not an excuse to not pay your mortgage. They will not allow, because your tenant are not paying rent, they will not allow for deferment or forbearance. You still have to pay your mortgage. So a lot of red tape here for property owners, landlords, people who have considered renting out their house. I would highly encourage you to talk to us if you find yourself in that boat or somebody in that boat. Let's be real, in the multiple listing service here, there's activity going on. Homes are selling. In fact, the average is 97% of them are selling for asking price compared to actual close price is about 97%. The Durkins are 98.9, but hey, who's counting? Talk to us and figuring out how we can get you across the finish line there before you potentially risk your property being occupied by tenants who may not be able to pay for the foreseeable future. So we felt that this was important news for you to know. There's links to find out if you have a federally backed mortgage by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. There's also links as far as the CARES Act and the page of the HEROES Act that explains the additional 12-month moratorium that could take place if the bill passes. So again, our goal here is to be very helpful to you, provide resources to you. If you know somebody or you're in this position, we would love to guide you, consult with you, see if we can help. So we hope you have a safe weekend, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thanks.